Welcome to Speech Introductions and Conclusions. As you may know, speeches have three basic sections: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Even though the body comprises the bulk of a speech, the introduction and conclusion are just as important as the body of a speech. In this brief tutorial, we will go over how to write effective introductions and conclusions. Speech introductions are generally the last part of the speech that you write. You should craft your introduction after you've decided what you will discuss in your speech. They should comprise between 10 and 15% of your speech. They create your audience's first impression of you and your speech, so take care to make that impression a positive one. And finally, speech introductions should include the following 5 essential elements. First, you must gain the attention of your audience. You can accomplish this in a variety of ways, some of which include telling a story, sharing a startling statistic, asking a question, reciting a quote, telling a joke, or referring to a personal experience. Next, you must introduce the subject. Here you state your thesis and explain the purpose of your speech. Next, give the audience a reason to listen. Here you are answering the "so what" question by connecting the topic to the audience in a meaningful way. Next, it is essential that you establish credibility by describing your credentials as a knowledgeable source who can speak about this topic. Finally, you must preview your main points by providing a roadmap for your audience members to follow. You do this by enumerating your main points. After you've written your introduction, you can move on to crafting a conclusion. Here are a few important things that you should consider when writing your conclusion. Speech conclusions should be written in conjunction with your introduction. These two parts of the speech should be complementary and parallel in structure and content. Much like an introduction, a conclusion should comprise between 10 and 15% of your speech. Conclusions create your audience's final impression of you and your speech, so be sure to leave your audience with a positive final impression. A well-written conclusion also does justice to your thought-provoking speech. And finally, conclusions accomplish the following 4 primary goals. Number 1, well-written conclusions summarize your main points. Number 2, they re-emphasize the main idea of your speech in an interesting way. Number 3, depending on the goals of your speech, conclusions can motivate the audience to respond in some way. And number 4, conclusions provide closure to your speech. And now for some final tips on writing speech introductions and conclusions. Avoid including brand new information in your conclusion. Doing so can be confusing for your audience and obscure the focus of your speech. Always refer back to your introduction and your conclusion in order to create parallelism. Think about your introduction and conclusion as complementary bookends. And finally, avoid ending your speech with "that's it." Using "that's it" as your concluding statement does a disservice to your speech because it is a generic and irrelevant phrase. If you would like more information about introductions, conclusions, or any other public speaking essentials, please refer to these helpful resources.